Just getting things sorted out, won't be long. Takes me a few seconds basically to get it up on the laptop so I can watch the live stream comments while I'm flying, so bear with me. Getting there slowly. I'm going to pull up the startup procedure for the aircraft because there's no way I can do this. There's no way I can do this off the top of my head. Okay, getting there slowly. Just check the volume levels before we get going. So that's looking fine. And what else do we need to do? Let's check the control configuration in the simulator, see which ones I'm using. That's the standard one for the stick. So I need to change this to 4 engine. There it was. Apply, go back, resume. Okay, should we get this show on the road? So it's very early morning in Queenstown. You can see there's a bug going on with lighting at the moment. Don't know if anybody else has got that bug in the simulator, or I presume it's a bug. Let's go out and have a look outside. Or is that street lights over here? Oh no, it's not. It's not a bug. It's the lighting for the cricket pitch. So let's go and get back to our aeroplane. So first things first, let's go and turn the pilots off because they're a pain in the backside. We don't want the pilots, that's correct. We are going to use FMS navigation this time. Purely because I didn't use it last time. So I thought it might be interesting to... Oh, I have to click over here, don't I, to get the stuff to disappear. We don't need the ground power unit, so we can get rid of the tablet. I think we can get rid of these as well, so we haven't got these big lumps in the cockpit. Okay, let's just quickly check the live stream. So Patrick has appeared. So we're going to be doing an interesting departure purely because I've not done it. So this, I mean, look at this. We fly around and around the hill before we exit. So we'll see if it models it correctly. See if the aeroplane actually obeys it. Obviously we'll have no visual version of it to go by, so anyway, so if we go control 6, control 7 to go overhead. So batteries are already on because I turned them on a few minutes ago to turn some lights on. Oh, you have to bear with me a second, the cat has just come in and is being a pain. Back in 2 seconds. Right, I'm back. That's something you didn't see on commercial flights, is it? The pilot having to say to the passengers, I'll be back in a minute, I've just got to go and feed the cat. So, Control and 8 takes us over to the lights, nav lights to high int. So there we go. No smoking to auto. So that's over here. Cabin emergency to armed. Yaw damp master 1 and 2 to on. AP master on. Avionics A and B to on. Anti-skid to on. Lift spoilers yellow and green to on. Then further down the cockpit, bus tie AC and DC to auto. Standby inverters, standby generators to armed. And APU gen to on. Left inner pump to on. A master switch to start on the APU. So APU is up here, so that goes to start. The needle should start going round, and it's going round, which is good. You can see there the turbine temperature is increased and is now falling again. So that should get around towards 100. We'll get APU available, will show up. I think it's one of these, isn't it? Give it a second. Oh, sorry, here it is. APU fuel low pressure, and then we should get the, there we go, APU power available. Has now shown up. So on the lower panel, flight deck emergency lights to armed. So there it is. Aft console, control 4, yaw damper to on. And then we go and sort the oxygen out for the co-pilot and the pilot. So we'll turn that on and turn that on that side as well. And then back overhead. Center tank transfer to auto. So that's over here somewhere. There it is. Ice protection, ice detector on. So that's under the cover over here. And recover it. So back on the main panel. Click the flip chart, which will set up the V-speeds. Flight directors to on. So we go and turn on the flight directors both sides. Turn on nav 1. So we press the on button and turn the DME on for it as well. And then we click the button over there to turn on nav 2. Then we press control 5 to come down to the pedestals, and we turn on the comm radios. And then we can set up the FMC and the nav radios and so on and so forth. So we're going to go program the route basically. So let's get this somewhere near the middle so we can see it. So I've not done this for ages, so don't be surprised if I make some mistakes. Can we clear messages? Okay, no. So it's just saying there's no flight plan. So pausing it. This is retrofitted from the CJ4, by the way. So we go flight plan. We go from... let's just change the view in little nav map. We want to see information. We're not so interested in the distance today. So NZQN runway 23 is the departure. NZQN, and we're going to NZCH. NZCH. And we're not doing airways. We're going to fly pretty much direct between them. We might put a waypoint in. So then we can go into departure arrival, and we'll say we're going to leave on runway 23 using the Rideau 1B departure. 23, redo 1B, execute, go back to the index, go to the arrival for Christchurch, and we're going to do Elder 3A into ILS for runway 02. So we'll go next page, ILS 02, and the Elder, was it 3A? Just to double check, Elder 3A, there it is the approach, and execute. And then we can go look at the legs page, so we can use the soft key here. So we can see there's the beginning of the route. So if we go through, we should see a discontinuity in the middle. There it is. So we're going to put in a midway waypoint of Rekid. So Romeo Echo Kilo India Delta. I'll put that in there. That will push the discontinuity. Oh no, it didn't push it down. It just removed it entirely. There we go. So let's just go through and see if there are any further discontinuities. No, there are not. Okay. Interestingly, we haven't put in a cruise altitude. It's going to flight level 250 by the look of it. Well, it wants us below and above. Yeah, so we'll go for 25,000 anyway. That's a good number for this aeroplane. So if we just click legs, it will come straight to the top of the legs list, and we can leave that alone now. So we're taking off runway 23, so let's go and set the heading for that immediately, and the course. So you can see the... That's interesting. Oh, of course, we're using GPS, aren't we? So the course won't move unless we go to nav, but we're going to leave it on GPS. That's fine. So, but we will set the heading bug. It's almost there already. Look, it's pointing the right way, of course, because we're going to double back on the runway, because we're alongside the runway here at Queenstown. Okay, so that's that done. Master control panel's done. Oh, we haven't set the climb out. We're going to go straight for our target altitude, because this plane is fairly straightforward to operate. So 25,000 feet, arm the altitude. Can we pre-select lateral navigation? Yes, we can. That's interesting, and we'll go VNav on the way. We're not going to bother with VNav on the autopilot because that leaves us with nothing to do. Okay, so control 7. Fasten seatbelt signs to on. Control 8. Beacon lights to on. Oh, here we go. I'll just check the message on my phone, make sure it's not anything urgent. No, it isn't. Beacon light goes to on. And we perform pushback. We don't need to really, because there's nothing around us. Although, yeah, we can turn before we get to the pylon. And I guess we have to backtrack here. There's no easy way, is there? And the taxiway isn't very wide. Okay. So we're not going to bother with pushback. So control 7. Turn all the fuel pumps on. So they're over here. Then engine start master goes to on. Turn engine selector to number 4. And then start. Okay, why has that not done anything? There we go. Right, so we should see, yep, N1 is coming up. So when it gets to 20, we can select the starter for, there it goes, or the start switch for number 4, which will start the fuel and ignition system. So you'll see the turbine gas temperature increasing. N2 is coming up as well now. That's the turbofan. So the lights overhead will go out when it's ready. There they go. So engine number 3, hit start, come back down, watch the same sequence again, watch the N1 number come up. Hit the starter lever for engine number 3, or starter switch I should say, and ensure that it does actually start up. Yep, here it comes. Here comes N2. Wait for the lights. Engine number 2 and start. Watching N1. "12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 19 and start engine number 2. Keep an eye on the dials. We should see the gas temperature increase. There it goes. N2 is coming up. And finally, when the lights go out, we go to engine number 1 and hit start. We're going to switch on the thrust modulation system while we're here. We're not going to select a mode on it yet. So it's just gone through 20%. So hit the start switch on engine number 1. Keep an eye on the lights. There we go. So selector goes to off, start master to off. Then we can turn on the generators. So we'll just press Control 7 so we can see this neatly and tidily. So I have to remember where things are now. So Gen 1 on, Gen 4 on. Packs on the far right, pack 1 and pack 2 can go to on now. And we need to turn on the, let me just check this, engine air, all to on. So all of these go to on, and you'll see these lights go out as soon as these come on as well. So Control 8, overhead, brake fans to auto. Hydraulics, engine 2 pump to on. So hydraulics is here, and engine 3 pump to on. Ice protection, down further down. So that's here. So we're going to turn all heaters to on. And we are essentially ready to taxi at this point, but we're going to go and double check because we had this the other day. So saying flight recording is off, which is fine. Parking brake is on, brake fan select is on, air cell on ground. Now I looked this up, didn't I? And I can't remember what it was now. So at this point I can start looking at the live stream chat. Air cell on ground, what was that all about? I'm just double checking around the switches to see what we've missed. This is all done, this is all done. Just doing a scan around basically. This is all done. APU power available, yeah, that's normal. So we could put recirc on if we wanted to. So if we take off the parking brake, that solves that one. So let's go and, oh, we need the tablet back. I'm always doing that. So taking the tablet away when I still need it. So remove the chocks. Flaps to takeoff configuration. Spin up the engines and we're rolling. I will look this up in a moment. Air cell on ground, brake fan select on, that's fine. So we are going to taxi down and then backtrack. It's the only way to do it, I think. I think the taxiway is just too narrow for us to get down there. So as you can see, it's a beautiful morning. I've advanced time slightly. It was just too dark by about half an hour to for you to see much on the departure, so I thought I'd increase time a little bit. So while we taxi down, I'm going to look up the air cell. So what was it said again? Air cell on GRND. Whoops. Of course, it would be that today that the aircraft won't taxi straight, wouldn't it? Okay, I'm just reading the instructions for the aircraft in the pilot operating handbook. Which is not unusual for real crews to do this when something out of the ordinary happens. Okay, so it says here, annunciator illuminates when the aircraft is on the ground and either engine air 1, 2 or 3 is on. It does not illuminate when engine air 4 is on. So it's just a notification that we've got the engine air on. It's not a warning. As soon as we take off, it'll disappear. Oh, my dad's appeared in the live stream chat. SSD installed and reloaded from backup. He had a hard drive failure last night. That was a quick delivery then. Was that an Amazon job? Well, you may laugh about pilots looking at the pilot operating handbook, but certainly emergency procedures for unusual situations. That's why they have the book in the cockpit. You will remember in the Sully movie, the first thing that Aaron Eckhart's character did was got the book and started working through the procedure very, very quickly. So we are going to go for LNAV, remember. if we can get it to engage quickly. So this will be interesting. I just want to see, it's more of an academic exercise than anything. I want to see what it does. So we can see the indicated airspeed is coming up, so we'll rotate at about 120, we should come off the ground, 140. So here comes the airspeed. It builds up very quickly with 4 engines. There's a bit of a hump here, which is going to coincide with us rotating. Okay, so we're off the ground. So I'm just trimming the elevators as we go, and vertical speed hold. And autopilot on. So we will take this off of vertical speed hold now and push it up to climb a bit steeper and go vertical speed hold again at 1500 feet a minute. I'm just more interested to see what this does. So we'll sit and watch it from outside. I'll keep dipping in inside to see the speed. So we should circle this rock according to this standard instrument departure. So we should have the landing lights on as well. That should be on my checklist. It's missing. I'll have to do that. So if you remember looking inside, or looking in the nav map, this departure should do a loop of this rock and then carry on. So are we still holding, we're holding 1,000 feet a minute. We're not going very fast. I'm going to increase this to maximum continuous thrust. Where's MCT? There it is. Yeah, this is looking a bit dubious, isn't it? Unless it straightens up now. Has it completely messed it up? Yes, it has, look. It doesn't understand. It's going straight for QN628. I mean, luckily we're high enough. But this is a case where a human pilot would not have done that. They would have stayed on the track. And that's really a limitation of the retrofitted CJ4 guidance system that's in the BAe 146 in Flight Simulator. So we'll get the flaps up now. How are we doing for speed? 250 knots. We need to climb a bit more sharpish. So vertical speed limit off. Let's lift it up to a 10-degree climb and put vertical speed back on. And let's see if that stops it accelerating beyond 250. No, it's still going for it. We are really going to force this into a climb and a half. 15-degree climb. That will stop it. See, it's falling again. it's not holding the vertical speed I told it to do. Or it's not holding the pitch, I should say. So the flight director is stopping at 10 degrees. But it is holding on the 250, which is good. So let's see what this does then. So it's kind of broadly followed it. I mean, we've not followed it from an altitude perspective, but that's fine. We're just playing around with the aeroplane, really. So Chattanooga is saying your flaps are not retracted. That was on purpose because we were climbing and turning at the same time, and that's a recipe for disaster at low speed if you raise your flaps but too early. So Cal Nelson is off to go and play Star Citizen. I've never played Star Citizen. I've often thought about buying it and I never have. Can't see much at the moment, can we? The airplane's joining that track. It will turn left again in a moment and double back. If you see, it's going to follow round Alexandra basically. So let's have a look next side as we depart from Queenstown. So you can see the airfield down there. So Errol's absolutely right. You could use indicated airspeed mode and set it. I'm just doing this for something to do, to be honest. The automated systems are great, but they leave you very little to do, and I kind of like to be a little bit busy at least. Just to give you an indication of what he's talking about, we can go here and say indicated airspeed mode. Then you can use the marker here to move these around, but we're not going to at the moment. Let's go for vertical speed. Actually, we're pretty high already. We can take the climb rate off of this. That's the other thing. You might not want to climb at the speed you can, if that makes sense. Which is where vertical speed mode comes in once you're out of your initial climb. So I'm just watching the indicated, sorry, the vertical speed needle down here. So we'll hold it at, he says, famous last words. That was a simulator stutter, wasn't it? How are the engines doing? We can put it on sync mode now, can't we? We've more or less finished climbing. So sync mode, we need to be careful of where the throttle levers are. So they're almost way out there, so still climbing. Coming through 19,000 feet. Still going at 1,000 feet a minute. On our way up to 25,000, and then we'll need to balance out the thrust to stop ourselves accelerating once we get there. Shall we play with some navigation kit on the way? What's the frequency? 11270 for, what's the name of this VOR station? Swampy Dunedin. 11270. So we'll go and tune that in. You can see it's lit up on the instrument, although the HSI isn't going to show it, this will show it. So it's showing it as off of our right side, which is absolutely correct, and 75 miles away. Although it's not quite right, is it? It should be showing it. Let me just try something. That's interesting. So that needle is showing it relative to us. No, it's actually not right at all, is it? Oh, sorry, it's that one. I guess. Yeah. That's nav 2, the one that's not moving. Yeah, that makes sense. So if we chose a different VOR for nav 2, there probably aren't any so close around, are there? 113.6, what's the range on it? Yeah, we should be able to see it. 113.6, let's go and tune it in. Yeah, so it's now diagonally behind us, that makes sense, 31 miles away and increasing. Obviously, because we are in RNAV mode, or using the flight management system, HSI is only showing GPS data, so it's just showing the next leg and our relationship to it. Okay, so we're still climbing. Still just about holding 250 knots in the climb. We're not in a hurry. We're running 92% on the engines. I'm just interested. Let's have a look. If we go maximum continuous, they can do about another 1.5% without stressing them. So why is Nightbot deleting messages? What did it see? There must have been a false positive in there as something that was written. I think overuse of emojis will cause it to rip out messages, so just be careful. Oh, the A310, I remember when the A310 came out, I really had to kind of hunker down and hit the books with that one, because yeah, it was a huge learning curve. It doesn't work anything like an A320, does it? It's very unique. It's good fun though. Let's have a look inside. So we're just coming up to 25,000 feet, so you'll see the climb rate will tail off as the aeroplane captures the altitude. So it will switch over to altitude hold. So we're coming up 24,900. We didn't check the it's my bad. Didn't change the barometric pressure when we climbed out. Did it on the ground but not at altitude. So at the transition altitude we should have changed it. Also, while I'm busy talking and not looking at the checklist anymore, didn't turn off the landing lights either. So they should have come off at 10,000 feet. Right, while we're en route, I'm just going to check the throttle, because obviously we're going to be increasing in speed slowly. Well, it depends on the weather, but it looks like it's holding actually, so let's go for sync mode. Can we pick up the VOR at Christchurch? Should we try it? 115.30. Not yet. So what is the range on the Christchurch VOR? Let's go and have a look. 130 miles. So we could figure that out looking on here. Add range rings for 130 miles. Go. That's where we will pick up the VOR. Hopefully. Should we go and turn the weather radar on? I'm not sure how well it works, but it looks pretty. There's no weather really to report, is there? Right, oh, this is actually increasing in speed now, so I'm going to pull the throttles back. That's because we're at 95%. Let's get it back to 93.5, 92%. And we'll trundle along quite happily towards Christchurch. I'm going to make a quick coffee. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm back. So, are there any plans to update the FMC on this plane? I have no idea. I know there is a new version of the plane coming. This is the BAe 146. There's an Avro 100 that's in development, and it's not far away from release as far as I understand, which was the more modern version of this airframe. So the big difference you're going to find... Oh, we are overspeeding. Just come back off the throttle and hit the air brakes for a moment. We're only just overspeeding. About 10 knots. The Avro 100 is the glass cockpit. It's got a glass cockpit, vastly different to this. So it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like when it appears. But it's been in development for a long time. There's a whole raft of aeroplanes that are coming in the simulator though that are going to be really good. Like things like the Fokker. There's several Fokker aircraft. There's the... Oh, let's have a look. If we pull up MSFS add-ons, really great website. I'll just keep an eye on the sim while we're doing this. Aircraft. So, in development. So GA, airliners and transport, here we go. So there's... Cancel. Close the advert. There's several Airbuses in development. There's a big Airbus A330 from Aerosoft on the way. But more interestingly to me, there's Dash coming from Majestic. A Dash 8. Yeah, Fokker F-28 Fellowship is coming, so let's just pop that open and show you it. Looks good, doesn't it? Fokker 70 and 100 from JustFlight are coming, so they look cool as well. So inside the cockpit, going to be interesting. Also, there's a... Yeah, here we go, from Black Box, the Shorts Skyvan is coming. So I don't know if anybody's ever seen model kits of that. Well, I remember when I was a kid, you used to see pictures of this in airplane books. But yeah, there's all sorts of airplanes that are on their way. Just trying to think what else is coming out. A Dash 7's coming out by the look of it from Simworks Studios. I thought they'd stopped development on that. Maybe they haven't. There's a Boeing 747 coming from JustFlight. That'll be interesting when it finally arrives. I don't know if there's going to be any internal pictures of it yet, but given that it's the 747 Classic, it's going to have lots and lots of dials. There's a 737-200 as well coming from Milviz. Again, that will be a cockpit full of dials. There's the Avro RJ, or I think it's Avro 100 as it's also known as, which I'm not sure if they've got any pictures of it yet. Let's wait and see if they load in. Yeah, so you can see that it's got a glass cockpit, although it's not glass as in, you know, a modern glass cockpit. It's just got a lot more glass than it had previously. Anyway, so let's have a look at the map, see where we are. So we are within 130 miles. We should start descending fairly soon. Although we can come down quite rapidly. We're only at 25,000 feet, remember. So let's draw another range ring on the map. Add range rings at, say, 60 miles, maybe. So that's where we need to, as an absolute last resort, start descending. Because we can descend very steeply in this aircraft because it's got massive spoilers. Okay, so while we're en route, we'll have a quick look. I talked about this briefly the other day. I started a community on the internet called Virtual Flight Online. It's free to join, everything to do with it. So there's forums, a newsletter, reference guide, there's a virtual airline, Discord server, TeamSpeak server, Facebook group. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, go... I can't even talk tonight. If you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, go join it if you are a Facebook member. Otherwise, join Discord if you don't like Facebook. The forums are going great guns as well. So TeamSpeak, we've not really used it yet. If you've never seen TeamSpeak before, it's the forerunner of Discord. It's still very popular among the esports crowd. So you can see we've got lots of channels. I fixed the problem we had with the channels the other day, so you can now wander around all the channels. But it's much lighter on resources than Discord. And there is a mobile app for TeamSpeak as well that you can find on the internet. You just put Virtual Flight Online in as the server and you can just wander straight in. No questions asked. But it just does voice chat and does it really nicely.
Disconnected.
Okay, how are we doing? I'll put that link in the flight chat. So https virtualflight.online is the main website. The forums are at forums.virtualflight.online. TeamSpeak is https. Oh, sorry, it is just virtualflight.online. So you can download the TeamSpeak 3 client for free from TeamSpeak on the internet, and then just join up to the server, or connect to the server, I should say, and choose your nickname. And if you're doing like a group flight with friends and for whatever reason they don't get on with Discord, TeamSpeak is a really good fallback. And you can use push to talk with TeamSpeak as well if you want. Okay, let's have a look at where we are. So I am going to start descending. So we'll come down to 10,000 feet to begin with. I'm just wondering, it's been a while since I've flown this properly. When you move the ASI bug, so let's see if let's try it. So if we set this at a maximum of 250 knots, let's see how it reacts. So we'll go indicated airspeed. Oh, we need to arm the altitude first. Then we'll go indicated airspeed mode, and you'll see the aeroplane drop. So the speed should get to 250 knots, at which point it will stop trying to dive at the floor. Or not. See, it's been that long since I've done this. I might have to go and read up on it again. Did we put the transponder on? That wasn't on my checklist, was it?
Climb, climb, climb.
So it has started descending, but it's not in any sort of hurry about it. Let's just find something out. So it looks like it's just going to maintain, it's not going to use the bug, it's just going to maintain the speed we were at. But even then it's not really... It's odd, isn't it? Okay, I'll come back to that in a minute. I'm going to have a read up on it while we're descending. So we'll come off of vertical speed mode, we'll pitch down. So we're doing about 3,000 feet a minute. See, it's pulling itself back out when it should be maintaining vertical speed. Maybe it has a limit. So it's about 2,700 feet a minute at the moment. Let's have a bit of a search on the what it uses as triggers for the indicated airspeed mode on the autopilot. So the real aircraft didn't have LNAV at all. It didn't have an FMC. So JustFlight added all of that functionality as in a concession to the community that were creating havoc, saying, how dare you give us an airplane where we can't have a big green button that flies us from A to B. You know, low betide having an accurate simulation of an airplane that had none of this hardware on it. But we won't get into that one because I think everybody knows what I feel about that kind of stuff. Okay, yeah, so it seems like it will target the indicated airspeed at the point you engage the autopilot, or that you engage IAS mode. So if we're doing, say, 270 knots or 250 knots, then it will target that speed. So let's try it. If we go, pull this a little bit out of its dive. Where are we? We're just coming inside 60 miles then. Let's just hold vertical speed at 1,500 feet a minute. We haven't really got time to mess around with it, to be honest. So we're coming in ILS 109.9, so we'll go and set all this up so we're not in a hurry later. 109.90. And we want 16 degrees on the course. We'll put the same on nav 2. 109.90. The only problem with doing short flights is you don't get time to mess around en route. So coming down to 14,000 feet. I guess nav 2 we could put the Christchurch VOR and then go over to radio nav. So 115.3 was the there we go. So if we go over to we'll bring the heading bug round. Well, we're almost on it anyway. So we go to heading mode. Oh no, no, we're not. It's on the other side of the blooming dial at the moment. We want to go that way, please. And what was I going to look for? Oh yes, turn this back to nav mode. So we've actually got the VOR radios working. So you can see on nav 2 over there. If we switch this to nav 2, we can see nav 2 here. So if we want to be on that 16-degree run-in, we're off to the left at the moment. You should be able to see that over here. Yeah, you can see it, look. So if we wanted to, this would be a good example actually of doing radio nav. So what we're going to do is fly 40 degrees for a bit. And what we're going to do, if we trace this out here, well, I've gone a bit too far there. Measure distance, that's about right, isn't it? So we're looking to get on that line. So at the moment, if you've never done this before, this would be quite instructive for you. We're coming across towards the line, so it's to our right at the moment, and that's the angle of it off of our nose. So if you think in terms of us hitting that line over there somewhere, that's the angle that we're going to approach it at, but it's in front of us obviously. We're not on top of it. It's quite some distance away at the moment, but you can see the distance ticking down. That's the that's interesting. So here comes 10,000 feet. Luckily we're still doing 250 knots. So we're about 40 miles away, 45 miles away. Well, we can see it here, look, 43 to the Christchurch. That's because we've hit switch onto nav 2. We're showing the nav 2 radio on the HSI on the left side. So rather than doing the GPS routine, we're just doing radio nav now and coming in with some vectoring. So now at 10,000 feet we can get the lights back on. Start descending as well. We'll come down now to 5,000. Arm the altitude difference. Vertical speed mode. Oh, so let's try this IAS mode then. Although we're on idle at the moment. Yeah, let's go vertical speed and just drop it. So we'll come down 1,000 feet a minute. We probably want a bit more than that actually. So 1,500 feet a minute. So we're going to need to be careful of airspeed again. Obviously as you descend the air gets thicker, so it becomes easier to maintain a steeper and steeper glide. So we should see, yeah, the needles coming in on the HSI. So the course deviation indicator is coming in. So we can turn in towards, we could put this on VOR lock actually. And it's actually going to turn, look, to an even steeper intercept angle. I think it typically goes for about 30 degrees on the intercept angle. And now it's turning onto the track. So this is the autopilot chasing the needle on the HSI for us. And you'll notice because we have put a course of 16 degrees, we've got the runway direction. Or sorry, we've got the ILS direction. They don't always match. You need to be careful of that. So in this case they do. The runway is 16 degrees and the ILS is 16 degrees. But sometimes you get offset ILSs that are at a very different angle than the runway. There's some really great ones in Canada that are as much as 30, 40 degrees off. There's a good one in Italy as well. It's really good to practice, where you come in on the ILS beam and then do a sudden 30 or 40 degree turn onto the runway. There's one in Canada that's about 70 degrees out that's very, very challenging. So we've seen now that if we go to split mode again, we still haven't picked up the ILS on 109.9. We've got nothing. Oh, as I say it, it's lit up. We're 25 miles out from the runway. So we're just coming down to 5,000 feet. So we want to be, let's check airfield elevation. So let's have a look at the information on Christchurch. Where are we? This is the weather. We want the overview page. Elevation 123 feet. So we want about 2,600 feet at the point we come into the ILS. That's interesting. Look, this is not doing, or maybe I think my line is slightly wrong. The aeroplane is not doing a great job of staying on the track, but we'll trust it for the moment. We're going a bit fast. So the VOR lock has come off, that's why. Why did the VOR lock come off? Oh, VOR lock switched off when I changed the split. Again, this is just rustiness of not knowing, the aircraft backwards anymore, and not being aware of what influences what. So when I changed the split on the radio instruments, it cut off the VOR lock on the autopilot. So you can see the glide slope is coming, so we are going to switch on glide slope lock as well. 17 miles to run. So rather than descend down ourselves, the aeroplane can begin descending. We've picked up the ILS very early. So the aeroplane is going to capture, there it goes, and it's starting to descend, so we just need to manage speed now. We're already down to 200 knots, which is good. So let's get the gear down while we can. We are at a sufficient speed where we can. Obviously the drag from the wheels is slowing us down markedly. So we're just using thrust to counter that a little bit. Go for the first stage of flaps. If you look way out in the distance, you can't actually see it yet. We can't see the runway yet in the mist. It's still quite a long way out. This aeroplane doesn't have auto land, so we're not going to worry too much about that. So what we will do, I'm going to turn the autopilot off. I hate landing on autopilot. I'm going to turn all these modes off. So we'll fly it in ourselves. Just keep an eye on the instrument down here that we're broadly on the glide slope. Keep an eye on the artificial horizon because we can't really see the horizon because of the sun. So we're slightly off to the left, so steering gently right. The aeroplane is being a bit of a bucking bronco today. It's being pushed around. I'm having to use quite severe rolling inputs on the ailerons to hold it straight. So we're down to 2,700 feet. You can see we're just a little bit above the glide slope. Holding about 150 knots, which is absolutely fine.
2,500.
And we're just waiting now to see the airfield appear in front of us. We're slightly off to the right. So we're going to turn a couple of degrees to the left. And hopefully, there's probably a bit of crosswind going on. Of course, in an aircraft of this era, we don't get indication of the crosswind accurately on the instruments. So you have to kind of figure out by what's happening, what's going on with the wind. Or you have a co-pilot that gets the ATIS information for you. Chins a radio in and listens to it. I'm hoping, I think I can see the runway just coming out of the mist in front of us. And obviously we are on the centre line, which is good. So we're going to turn right again before we overdo it. Just a little bit. We're getting a bit high. So we'll descend down onto the glide slope. Going for full flaps, which will probably kick us up above the glide slope. It's certainly having an influence on the nose at the moment.
1,000.
So just watching the airspeed, watching the glide slope, and beginning to look out of the window. But we're more interested in just keeping within safe margins with everything. Getting low. It doesn't help the sim has started stuttering. That'll be loading assets in on the ground. They really need to fix that, to have a separate thread for loading assets. So we're getting down towards minimum speed. Need to be careful. We don't want to get much below 120 knots. We're getting low. Right, I'm going to take it visually from here. I don't always trust what the sim tells me in terms of the VASI lights and the or PAPI lights, sorry, and the ILS. So we're going to do it visually from here.
$50, $40, $30, $20, $10.
Okay, raising the flaps up, we don't need them anymore. Pulled the air brakes back in. It's worth saying when I hit the runway, I immediately deployed air brakes full because they're massive on the... If you've never seen this, if I open them up, yeah, there you go. As soon as you touch the toe brakes with the air brakes, it triggers the whole top of the wing to lift up. So if you've got flaps down at the same time, you get like huge crow brakes, essentially. So let's go and find somewhere to park. Without ATC, it's a lot easier because you just park wherever you like. And you don't have delays waiting for handovers between the different controllers. You don't have the issue about having to restart the APU on the way back in the 146 either, because it stays on throughout the flight. So we should have turned the landing lights off though, and the strobes, which we didn't get to. Again, busy talking, not following procedure, but not a disaster. Okay, so once we're on the ground, we can go and switch the engines back off. I'm not going to go through the whole procedure of undoing everything we did. It's quite kind of straightforward, really. Should we go and open the door? So we need the tablet to do that. There we go. I can go and turn some of the lights off as well while we're here. Control 8, isn't it? So beacon can't come off because the engines are now off. Nav can go to off. It's funny, isn't it? I say, oh, I'm not going to go and do things, and then I start doing them. Okay. Tim's saying it must burn fuel like it's going out of style with 4 engines. Absolutely not. They're tiny engines. They're very small engines in the 146. So you have to remember, this is quite a small aeroplane. So imagine that's turbofans, and yeah, the gas turbine in the middle is really little. So that's kind of why it's so famous. Its nickname is the Whisper Jet, because even though it has 4 engines, they're very small, they're very quiet. So compared to anything like a 737, it's like half the volume. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. And hopefully you enjoyed that. So do go and visit, though, Virtual Flight Online. So I'll just have a quick look at it again, just to take people through it a little bit. So if you want to find a community of aviation enthusiasts to go and hang out with, they're a great bunch. We've really tried hard to make a group that hasn't got the idiot brigade that seem to infest Microsoft Flight Simulator's official forums. So we've got, you know, sensible people who are interested in airplanes and simulation, and there's, you know, lots of busy forums going on. There's a busy Discord server. There's an airline you can go join and do flights all over the world. The airline has a new tour coming up actually in start of June. So if you wanted to learn the ropes in the airline, we've just organised this tour of Asia. So each leg takes you around the various countries throughout Asia, and that'll be all through the summer. That tour will be available for people to go and do. You can see people are already pre-registering their interest in doing it. So yeah, the airline is kind of an offshoot, really. We started out doing just group flights, and then one day I thought, why don't we do an airline? Lots of other people are doing it, and apparently 1,000 other people thought that was a good idea as well. So there you go. The airline uses a system called ACARS to record your flights, so you get scored based on how accurately you have operated the aeroplane. So there's a few people in the air right now, as you can see. If you go and click on them, you can see where they're flying and what their exact track is over the ground, which is quite cool. But yeah, we do newsletters every so often, so you can see when we announced the Asia tour, we did a newsletter, so you get told by email anything that's upcoming with all the details you'll need. So we're quite careful about, you know, providing everybody with everything they need all the time. By the same token, we've got the codex, which is like a big reference book basically of everything we do, describing how to get involved in the forums, the newsletter, the Discord server, the TeamSpeak server, the Facebook group, the airline group, how to do group flights, how to organise your own group flights using our community, how to invite people just to go flying with you. And sometimes we host air traffic control sessions where we'll have volunteer controllers. And to support that, we've got you know, sort of a 101 kind of list of things, of like radio telephony to get people off the ground if they've never spoken to ATC before, with just some hints and tips and some examples of talking on Unicom, for example, of the sorts of conversations you would hear. But yeah, it's a community. It's of the people for the people. Obviously, Transmitter lives here as well. So this is the program I wrote that shows you where people are on the map. So if you're running it, you appear on the map. So you tend to get group flights using it. Sometimes during the week you'll get up to 100 people using it at once. And you can see everybody here. Just for a bit of fun, it shows your last landing rate. So we can have a look down, see somebody put their plane into the ground, look at 600 feet a minute. That would be a write-off, wouldn't it? So yeah, and you can obviously click on each of these aeroplanes and see what they're flying, where they are in the world. Obviously you can zoom in as well. If you click down here, it actually flies the map to them and shows you where they are. Obviously you can zoom right in, so they're obviously prepping for a flight over at Denver there. But anyway, so Virtual Flight Online, go and join in with some of the resources there. It's really great. And it's all of it's free. That's the main thing, as Adam's just said. It's absolutely free. Forums are free. The virtual airline's free. Discord server's free. TeamSpeak's free. We do encourage people, if they can afford to you know, chuck us the cost of a cup of coffee now and again in the Patreon, which helps pay for the hosting. But it's very much of the people for the people. Okay, I'll see you again soon. That was a good flight.